Hi, Marley. It's Joe, and I thought I'd send a little video here. When I started talking to you, I think you are really on the path to having a really amazing sound as a violinist, and you've progressed so much. I'm very proud of you. But I think you may have gotten bogged down a little bit on what I was trying to communicate, and I told you about the harmonics, and really none of that is like to get you to play the harmonics. It's to understand that they're in your instrument. And what happens is that when we play really, really in tune, that's why I did suggest playing scales slowly with a tuner to really hear and listen and make the needle line up. That will help with your intonation. But what happens when you're playing a note in tune, all of those harmonics on all the strings respond to each other. And when you hear a note and you're playing a landing on a long note, not so much in the short notes and the passing tones, but when you land on like the last note, and it's say you're playing the third finger on the note G on the D string, and when you first hit it, nothing happens, but then the sound sounds like it's opening up, and you can feel your violin vibrating. That means that you are playing exactly in tune. And every note has that sweet spot where it can best talk or communicate with all of those other notes in your instrument, and they're on every string. So I was just showing you the harmonic, and when I'm playing, let's say the D string, if I go move my hand as far forward as I can and put my fourth finger down, it goes up an octave. Because what happens is that the string is already vibrating as the whole length of the string, but it's also vibrating in half. And your ear isn't hearing that so much, but it does mean that it's hearing that note and many others that are also on the D string that are in harmonics. And that's what makes it sound like you're playing the violin on the D string. I hope that makes sense. But you have them on other fingers too. For example, the third finger. So it speaks to the G string. So when you're playing really in tune, if I just touch the finger there, I'm not pushing my finger down. This is open D, third finger. There's a harmonic. So that's one of the harmonics you have on a lot of fingers. But you're hearing those notes. Now, if your third finger isn't right in the right spot, I'm going to move it just a little bit. No. There's just a tiny range where that harmonic will come out, and where you put your finger down. Now, if I'm off of that a little bit, listen. Sharp, right? I hope that you can hear the depth of sound different. When I lowered that, it started ringing. It sounded like the sound deepened a little bit, and it actually felt different because my violin is vibrating when I'm playing in tune. So getting back to what I said before, we were talking about vibrato. Vibrato, you start on the pitch, and then you roll your finger toward the bridge. And the sound is going up and down a little bit around the note. So the vibrato sometimes people use to disguise bad intonation. They start a little bit below where the note's supposed to be. They roll up to the note and past it and then back, and they're all over. So your ear says, well, they're playing the right note. I noticed in your playing that you are on kind of the high side of each note as you're playing it. You're playing the right note. It sounds like you're playing the right note, but when you played on the last note, there were several times in your video where your hand went back just a little bit. And I'm talking about whether you're rolling your finger like from here to here, just a very slight little difference. And your instrument started opening up. I think you were playing the note G. I think it was a G on the D string. But your violin started opening up, and you could hear it, and you could hear, wow, that sounds good. When you hear somebody that has a really good tone, it isn't the instrument. What they're doing is they're playing in tune in the place where each of the notes that they're playing can respond best to their instrument. So it's their instrument is talking to itself. And if it's just slightly off pitch, it doesn't do that. It's like dancing with somebody that's dancing to a different tempo than you are. And when you're really together, everything works together, and that's what you want your violin to do. So as far as giving you some kind of a thing to do, I want you to watch some really good players that you admire on YouTube and listen very critically to them. Don't just be impressed with how good they play. It's not just about the fast notes, but I want you to watch what happens when they hit the slow notes. And you will hear them hit that note and make a small adjustment until that note starts coming alive. And you don't really hear a difference in pitch. You hear a difference in quality. And what they're doing, and every musician does, is finding that spot, because we put our fingers down and they may or not be right, but how fast can you adjust to what is right? That's the difference. To a point, they also probably have a more expensive instrument they're playing on, but that only matters after a long time. So I hope this was helpful to you. Just in knowing that making the little adjustments and trying to make your instrument, it isn't so much with what you hear, because we use our ear to adjust our pitch all the time. You know that. You're doing that. But it's how the instrument feels on those notes. When you play those notes with a metronome, for example, with a tuner on the scale, you're playing it in tune. That's going to be the best that your instrument sounds if your instrument's in tune. And it feels a certain way. Try playing it off the needle, flat or sharp, and see how your instrument responds, because it's going to fight against trying to make that sound come out. It wants to play the right note, and you're making it play the wrong one. So when you play it right in tune, it's like, oh, I got easier. It's sort of like you're trying to sing and somebody's choking you, and then they take their hand off your throat and you can sing freely. And that actually is a feeling that you'll have in your instrument. And try and play by that feeling. And I think that will really give you the goal to improve your playing and the sound that you're trying to get. You shouldn't apologize for your great accomplishments that you're doing. I'm very proud of you, and I'm working on the same thing. Trust me. I'm very aware of these things that I'm saying, preaching to the choir. So there's some more things, but I'll share those in another video later. Anyway, have a great day.